The diplomatic chamber of the Galactic Confederation stretched like an impossible geometric nightmare, its walls constructed from living crystal that shifted and breathed with alien consciousness. Row upon row of alien representatives sat in tiered seating, their forms as varied as the cosmos itself. Crystalline beings that refracted light, gaseous entities contained in complex environmental suits, silicon-based life forms that pulsed with internal luminescence. Jack Thompson stood alone at the central podium, his weathered face a stark contrast to the polished, almost luminescent surfaces surrounding him. He wore the standard diplomatic uniform of the United Earth Interstellar Diplomatic Corps, midnight blue with subtle silver piping, a design that spoke of restrained military discipline. Around his neck hung a simple medallion, a piece of meteorite from humanity's first successful Mars colony, a subtle reminder of how far they had already come. The chamber fell silent as Arch-Mediator, Krolix of the Vornak delegation, rose to speak. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, the crystalline being towered over Thompson, its multifaceted body catching and refracting the chamber's ambient light. When it spoke, the translation systems built into the diplomatic hall transformed its complex series of light pulses and vibrational frequencies into human language. Representative Thompson, Krolix began, its voice a mechanical precision that seemed to cut through the air. The Galactic Confederation has reviewed humanity's application for full interstellar recognition. Our assessment is comprehensive. Thompson remained motionless, years of military training keeping his face an impassive mask. He knew what was coming. The preliminary reports had been leaked weeks ago, passed through back channels and diplomatic whispers. But hearing it officially would be different. A holographic display erupted behind Thompson, showing humanity's current stellar footprint. It was pathetically small, a handful of solar system outposts, 3 extrasolar colonies struggling against harsh environments, and a scattered network of research stations and mining operations. Compared to the vast, interconnected territories of the older galactic civilizations, human space looked like a child's first attempt at exploration. Krolix continued, each word carefully chosen to maximize diplomatic humiliation. Your species demonstrates technological capabilities that can only be described as rudimentary. Your faster-than-light travel is inefficient. Your planetary terraforming techniques are destructive and unrefined. Your understanding of quantum mechanics remains at a primitive stage. The other delegates began to murmur, a rising tide of condescension that filled the chamber. Representatives from the Zril Collective, beings of pure energy contained in sophisticated quantum-locked containment suits, exchanged signals of derision. The Silicon Concordats representatives, massive crystalline constructs that communicated through complex mathematical algorithms, projected an aura of dismissive superiority. Thompson knew the statistics by heart. Humanity had been spacefaring for barely a century. Their first successful faster-than-light jump had occurred only 47 years ago. They had colonized a mere 4 planets outside their home system, and 2 of those colonies were struggling against extreme environmental conditions. By the standards of civilizations that had been exploring the galaxy for tens of thousands of years, humans were indeed children. But children could grow, children could learn, and children, when underestimated, could become something entirely unexpected. The Galactic Confederation finds humanity, Krolix proclaimed, its voice rising to a crescendo that vibrated through the chamber's living crystal walls. Unqualified for full interstellar recognition, your application is denied. You will be restricted to your current territorial boundaries. Any expansion beyond your designated zones will be considered a violation of galactic law. A final insult, delivered with bureaucratic coldness. Jack Thompson's hand unconsciously touched the meteorite medallion. He thought of the generations that had come before, the scientists, the engineers, the dreamers who had pushed humanity beyond its planetary cradle. He thought of the colonies struggling on distant worlds, of the research stations prodding the edges of human knowledge. And he smiled. The delegates didn't understand. Restriction was not a limitation for humans. It was a challenge. The hearing was over. But humanity's real response was just beginning. The abandoned research facility looked like a ghost of humanity's scientific ambitions. Located on the outskirts of New Phoenix, a sprawling desert metropolis built from the remnants of climate-ravaged Arizona. The complex was a patchwork of retrofitted warehouses and experimental laboratories. Most of the advanced research centers had been defunded after the Galactic Confederation's dismissal, their budgets slashed, and their most promising researchers scattered to the wind. Dr. Emily Parker stood alone in a laboratory that felt more like a graveyard of broken dreams. Surrounded by equipment salvaged from canceled projects, she worked with a determination that bordered on obsession. Her team had dwindled from 50 brilliant researchers to just 3. Herself, Marcus Rodriguez, and Dr. Yuki Nakamura, each driven by something beyond mere scientific curiosity. The problem that consumed her was deceptively simple: material adaptation. Every known civilization in the galaxy approached material science from a static perspective. Design a material, engineer its properties, hope it performs under specific conditions. But nature didn't work that way. Living organisms adapted, evolved, responded to challenges in real time. Emily's breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of disciplines. She had merged biomimetic engineering with fractal mathematical models, creating a theoretical framework that treated materials as living, responsive systems. Her initial prototypes were nothing more than small robotic arms with adaptive neural networks, but they represented something revolutionary. "Marcus," she called out, her voice cutting through the laboratory's ambient hum of machinery. "Run simulation Delta 7 again." Marcus Rodriguez approached the experimental setup, his dark eyes scanning the complex array of sensors and quantum processors. He was a systems engineer with a background in biological computing, the perfect complement to Emily's theoretical approach. The robotic arm sat on a specialized testing platform. Around it, a series of environmental generators could simulate everything from extreme radiation to mechanical stress. Most materials would either resist or fail. Emily's design was supposed to do something entirely different. Initiating stress test, Marcus announced, his fingers dancing across the holographic control interface. The first test was relatively mild, a sudden temperature shift of 200 degrees Celsius. Traditional materials would crack, warp, or simply fail. But the robotic arm began to subtly shift its molecular structure. Microscopic quantum-locked lattices rearranged themselves, redistributing stress across its entire framework. Structural integrity at 98.7%, the lab's AI reported. Then came the real test. A precision laser began to systematically cut into the arm's outer shell. But instead of simply being damaged, the material began to flow and restructure. Molecular bonds broke and reformed, redirecting the laser's energy and healing the wound almost instantaneously. Dr. Yuki Nakamura, who had been quietly monitoring quantum resonance readings, let out a soft whisper. Impossible. But it was happening right in front of them. The robotic arm wasn't just resisting damage, it was learning, adapting, evolving in real time. Emily understood the implications immediately. This wasn't just a new material. This was a fundamental reimagining of how materials could behave. Every engineering limitation, from spacecraft design to medical implants, could be revolutionized. "We need to document everything," she said, her voice a mix of scientific excitement and something deeper, a sense of vindication. The Galactic Confederation had dismissed humanity as primitive. But primitive species didn't create technologies that could fundamentally rewrite the laws of material science. As the robotic arm continued its miraculous self-repair, Emily knew they were looking at more than just a scientific breakthrough. This was humanity's response to being told they were too small, too young, too insignificant to matter in the grand cosmic narrative. This was how humanity would prove them wrong. The laboratory hummed with possibility, a beacon of human potential in the middle of a desert that had once been considered uninhabitable. Adaptation wasn't just a scientific principle. For humans, it was a way of life. The colony of New Singapore hung like a fragile jewel against the inky blackness of space. Nestled in the Epsilon Eridani system, it represented humanity's most ambitious extrasolar settlement, a carefully engineered world that combined cutting-edge terraforming with adaptive environmental technologies. 50,000 colonists called this planet home, their hope a testament to human determination. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the U.S. Pathfinder, her eyes fixed on the long-range sensor displays. Something was wrong. The quantum communication arrays had been picking up strange signal echoes for days, patterns that didn't match any known communication protocols. Incoming transmission from Planetary Defense, announced Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, his fingers racing across the holographic interface. They're reporting unusual deep space anomalies. The first visual confirmation came seconds later. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't even a conventional invasion force. The Necron swarm appeared as a collective, a living, breathing mass of mechanical organisms that seemed to flow through space like a metallic ocean. Each individual component of the swarm was a marvel of destructive engineering. Roughly the size of a human fighter craft, these units could combine, separate, and recombine with terrifying speed and precision. Where traditional military doctrine spoke of ships and squadrons, the Necron swarm operated more like a biological entity, adaptive, responsive, and utterly ruthless. Planetary defense systems are going offline, Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with tension. The colony's most advanced weapon platforms, systems that had been designed to repel conventional attacks, simply ceased to function. The Necron units didn't destroy them. They invaded them, converted them, turned the very tools of defense into extension of their own destructive capabilities. On the planet's surface, colonists watched in horror as their sky filled with a metallic storm. Defensive installations went dark. Communication networks collapsed. The swarm didn't just attack, it consumed and repurposed. Sarah Chen knew they were outmatched. The experimental fleet she commanded represented humanity's most advanced current technology. But against this, it seemed like bringing knives to a nuclear war. Prepare experimental defensive protocols, she commanded. Deploy Parker Rodriguez adaptive shielding. It was a technology so new that it had barely been tested beyond simulation. Dr. Emily Parker's adaptive material research, combined with Marcus Rodriguez's quantum computing models, had created a shielding system that could potentially do something unprecedented, learn and adapt in real time. The first wave of Necron units struck the U.S. Pathfinder with enough force to obliterate any conventional warship. But something different happened. The ship's hull began to change. Microscopic adaptive matrices detected the incoming energy signatures. Molecular structures shifted and realigned. Where a traditional ship would have been torn apart, the Pathfinder's exterior began to absorb and redistribute the incoming destructive energy. Shield resonance at 62%, 74%, 89%. Rodriguez called out, disbelief creeping into his voice. The Necron swarm had never encountered a defense mechanism that could actively learn from its attacks. Their computational matrices, so efficient at breaking down conventional technologies, found themselves facing a system that changed faster than they could analyze. Sarah Chen watched in a mixture of terror and emerging hope as the ship literally reshaped itself. Weapon ports reconfigured. Armor plating flowed like liquid metal. The U.S. Pathfinder was no longer just a ship. It was a living, breathing defensive organism. Prepare counter-offensive protocols, she ordered. The human fleet, small as it was, began to demonstrate something the Necron swarm had never encountered. Adaptability that went beyond programmed responses, a capacity to learn that felt almost organic. This wasn't just a battle. This was humanity's first true test against a technological threat that had decimated entire galactic civilizations. And they were going to show the universe exactly what they were made of. The metallic storm continued to rage, but now something had changed. For the first time, the Necron swarm encountered an opponent that refused to be a victim. Humanity was fighting back. The command bridge of the U.S. Pathfinder had become something more than a traditional naval control center. Screens flickered with quantum adaptive displays that seemed to breathe and pulse with living information. Jack Thompson watched the tactical readouts with a mixture of scientific fascination and military precision. Dr. Emily Parker stood beside him, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface that looked more like a living ecosystem than a computer system. "The adaptive response is moving beyond our initial projections," she muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. What had begun as a defensive technology was rapidly evolving into something unprecedented. Each engagement with the Necron swarm provided new data, new opportunities for technological mutation. The human ships were learning faster than any artificial intelligence the galaxy had ever witnessed. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen reviewed the combat logs from their previous encounters. The pattern was extraordinary. Where conventional military doctrine spoke of fixed strategies and predetermined responses, these ships were creating strategies in real time. A weapon that proved effective against one Necron configuration would be immediately countered, but the human ships would already be adapting to that counter. "Look at this," Chen said, pulling up a holographic representation of their last 3 battles. "Our ships aren't just responding, they're predicting." The tactical display showed something remarkable. Human vessels were anticipating Necron attack patterns before they could be executed. Weapon systems would reconfigure microseconds before an attack. Shield harmonics would shift to exactly the right quantum frequency to neutralize incoming energy weapons. Thompson understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was a fundamental reimagining of warfare itself. The Galactic Confederation's existing military powers operated on principles of fixed technological superiority. Build the most advanced weapon. Develop the most powerful shield. Create the most efficient propulsion system. But those technologies remained static once deployed. Human adaptive technology was different. It was alive. A communication burst came in from the research team monitoring the adaptive systems. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez's voice crackled through the ship's communication network. "The quantum neural interface is showing exponential growth patterns," he reported. "Our ships are developing what can only be described as intuitive combat responses. It's like they're thinking." Thompson knew this would terrify the other galactic civilizations. The Vornak relied on millennia of calculated military strategy. The Zrill depended on psychic prediction matrices that had remained unchanged for centuries. But humans had introduced something entirely new, a technology that could learn, adapt, and evolve in real time. The next engagement proved their point dramatically. A Necron attack group approached, composed of nearly 200 individual combat units. In previous encounters, such a force would have decimated entire planetary defense fleets. But the human ships responded with a fluidity that defied conventional understanding. Weapon systems became organic. Hulls shifted and flowed like living metal, where a traditional ship would have rigid armor. These vessels seemed to breathe and move, absorbing and redirecting destructive energy. One by one, the Necron units fell, not through overwhelming firepower, but through a kind of technological judo, using the enemy's own energy and attack patterns against them. "We're rewriting the entire concept of military engagement," Emily Parker said quietly. Thompson nodded. This was more than a technological breakthrough. This was a fundamental challenge to how intelligent species conceived of conflict, of adaptation, of survival. The Galactic Confederation had called humans primitive. But primitive species didn't create technologies that could think, learn, and evolve faster than any known computational system in the universe. As the last Necron units were neutralized, something became clear. Humanity wasn't just fighting a war. They were demonstrating an entirely new approach to existence itself. Adaptation wasn't just a strategy. It was a way of life. The Galactic Confederation's central diplomatic complex stood as a monument to interstellar politics, a massive structure that seemed to defy conventional physics, its architecture a blend of living crystal, quantum-locked materials, and gravitational manipulation. Inside its most secure chamber, A conspiracy was taking shape. Counselor Vrek of the Silicon Concordat leaned forward, his crystalline form refracting the room's ambient light in complex patterns that betrayed his agitation. "The human technological progression is unacceptable," he transmitted, his communication a precise burst of mathematical frequencies. "Their adaptive technology represents an existential threat to the established galactic order." Around the table sat representatives from the most conservative and powerful civilizations. The Zrill Collective, beams of pure energy contained in sophisticated quantum-locked suits. The Vornak Crystalline Intelligence Network. The Molecular Concordance. Each had ruled their respective regions of space for millennia, their technological superiority unchallenged, until now. "We cannot allow a species with less than 2 centuries of spacefaring history to disrupt the balance of power," argued Zora Prime, the Zrill representative. Her energy form pulsed with barely contained anxiety. "Their recent military performance against the Necron swarm is merely a temporary anomaly." But they all knew it was more than that. On Earth, the first signs of the brewing conflict emerged through seemingly mundane channels. Research funding began to disappear. Advanced technology patents faced unprecedented legal challenges. Communication networks experienced mysterious disruptions. Dr. Emily Parker's research team found themselves under increasing pressure. Government contracts were quietly withdrawn. Advanced computing resources became inexplicably unavailable. Colleagues who had previously been eager collaborators now avoided direct communication. "Someone's trying to shut us down," Marcus Rodriguez observed, studying a complex network of communication interceptions. His computer displays showed a web of coordinated actions, each too subtle to be considered an outright attack, but collectively designed to strangle human technological development. Jack Thompson understood the game being played. As a former military strategist, he recognized the hallmarks of a coordinated suppression campaign. This wasn't just bureaucratic resistance. This was a calculated attempt to prevent humanity from becoming a significant galactic power. The first direct move came through economic channels. The Interstellar Trade Consortium, a body that had previously rubber-stamped human commercial applications, suddenly implemented a series of impossible regulatory requirements. Advanced material exports were classified as potential weapons technology. Research collaborations were placed under indefinite review. But humanity had learned something critical from its recent technological breakthroughs. Restriction was not a limitation. It was an opportunity for innovation. When traditional research channels were blocked, human scientists found alternatives. University laboratories became collaborative networks. Private funding emerged from unexpected sources. Technology that was supposed to be suppressed found new pathways of development. Sarah Chen discovered the first concrete evidence of the coordinated suppression effort. Hidden within layers of encrypted diplomatic communications, she found a detailed plan to systematically undermine human technological research. Covert operations designed to discredit key scientists. Economic pressure points carefully mapped out. Potential political destabilization scenarios meticulously planned. "They're afraid," she told Thompson during a secure briefing. "Not of what we've done, but of what we might become." The conspiracy ran deeper than anyone initially suspected. It wasn't just about preventing human technological growth. It was about maintaining a galactic power structure that had remained unchanged for thousands of years. But every attempt to restrict human innovation only seemed to accelerate their development. In research laboratories, in orbital research stations, in converted warehouse facilities, human scientists continued their work. Each obstacle became a new avenue of investigation. Each restriction sparked new forms of collaborative creativity. The Galactic Confederation was about to learn a fundamental truth about humanity. You cannot stop a species that sees limitation as its primary source of inspiration. The battle for humanity's future was just beginning. The orbital shipyard above Luna Base looked like nothing humanity had ever constructed before. It was a living ecosystem of metal and advanced polymer, a construction facility that breathed and adapted as much as the ships it produced. Massive quantum adaptive scaffolding surrounded the newest human vessels, their hulls shimmering with a strange, almost organic luminescence. Jack Thompson stood beside Dr. Emily Parker, watching as the final preparations for the demonstration began. This was more than a military unveiling. This was humanity's statement to the universe. "Preliminary systems are online," announced Commander Sarah Chen from the primary control station. Her fingers danced across interfaces that seemed to anticipate her movements, quantum-linked systems responding to mere suggestions of intent. The first vessel, designated the U.S. Endeavour, began to take shape in a way that defied every known principle of spacecraft construction. Traditional ships were rigid, constructed with fixed designs that remained constant throughout their operational lifetime. This was different. The hull itself looked like it was breathing, molecular structures shifting and realigning even as it sat in dock. Galactic Confederation observers watched through a series of quantum-encrypted transmission channels. Representatives from multiple alien civilizations prepared to witness what humans claimed was a revolutionary technological breakthrough. The ship's exterior began to demonstrate capabilities that seemed to violate fundamental laws of physics. Sections of the hull could reconfigure themselves instantaneously. Weapon systems emerged from seemingly smooth surfaces, adapting to potential threat configurations before they could even be imagined. Defensive systems didn't just protect, they anticipated and neutralized potential attacks through predictive quantum modeling. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez monitored the quantum neural interface, his eyes wide with a mixture of scientific excitement and barely contained wonder. "The adaptive response is beyond our initial projections," he muttered. "The ship is developing combat strategies faster than our most advanced simulation models." The demonstration began with a series of controlled tests. Simulated attack scenarios that would have destroyed conventional warships became nothing more than opportunities for technological adaptation. Energy weapons that should have pierced the hull were absorbed and redistributed. Kinetic impacts caused the ship's surface to flow like liquid metal, dissipating destructive force across its entire structure. Emily Parker understood the deeper significance. This wasn't just a new type of spacecraft. This was a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. "We're not just building ships," she told Thompson. "We're creating living systems that can think, adapt, and evolve." The Galactic Confederation observers grew increasingly agitated. Their quantum communication networks buzzed with urgent transmissions. What humans were demonstrating went far beyond a mere technological advancement. This was a complete paradigm shift in understanding how technology could function. The final test pushed the boundaries of believability. The U.S. Endeavour was subjected to a series of simultaneous attacks that would have overwhelmed any known defensive system. Energy weapons, kinetic bombardment, quantum disruption fields. Each attack was met with a response so fluid, so adaptive, that it seemed almost alive. Weapon systems would emerge from impossible angles. Defensive shields would reshape themselves faster than the attacking systems could recalibrate. The entire ship became a living, breathing defensive organism that learned and adapted in real time. Commander Chen's voice cut through the tension. Adaptive response at maximum efficiency, all systems operating beyond projected parameters. For the alien observers, it was a moment of profound shock. Humanity had not just created an advanced warship. They had developed a technological life form that could think, learn, and fight with an intelligence that seemed to blur the line between machine and living organism. Jack Thompson watched the final moments of the demonstration with a sense of quiet satisfaction. The Galactic Confederation had called humans primitive, had restricted their technological development, had tried to limit their potential, but limitation had always been humanity's greatest source of inspiration. The U.S. Endeavour completed its demonstration, its hull now a complex, shifting landscape of adaptive potential, a living testament to human innovation. The universe was about to change. The star system designated as Omega 9 had been considered lost for generations. 3 advanced civilizations had attempted to reclaim it from the Necron swarm, and 3 times they had been utterly destroyed. Entire fleets reduced to cosmic dust. Planetary defenses converted and turned against their creators. It was a graveyard of hope, a testament to the swarm's seemingly unstoppable technological supremacy. Commander Sarah Chen studied the holographic star charts with a calm that belied the magnitude of their mission. The human fleet stood ready, a collection of adaptive vessels that looked more like living organisms than traditional warships. Dr. Emily Parker stood at her side, the primary architect of the technology that was about to be tested on an unprecedented scale. "First wave approaching," announced Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, his fingers dancing across quantum adaptive interfaces that seemed to anticipate his thoughts. The initial Necron response was typical of their previous engagements. Hundreds of modular combat units began to converge, each capable of reconfiguring itself instantaneously. They had consumed and adapted from countless civilizations' technologies, creating a force that had been considered unbeatable. But humanity had learned something critical about technological adaptation that no other civilization understood. Flexibility was not just about changing form, it was about learning. The human ships didn't just respond to the Necron attack. They anticipated it. Weapon systems emerged from impossible angles. Defensive structures flowed like liquid metal, absorbing and redistributing destructive energy. Where previous civilizations had seen the swarm as an insurmountable threat, humans saw a complex problem waiting to be solved. Jack Thompson watched from the Strategic Command Center, understanding the deeper significance of what was unfolding. This was more than a military engagement. This was a fundamental challenge to how intelligent species conceived of conflict, of survival, of technological development. Each moment of the battle became a learning experience. The adaptive ships collected data faster than the Necron swarm could process its attacks. Weapon frequencies shifted, defensive configurations transformed. The entire human fleet moved like a single intelligent organism, learning and adapting with each microsecond of engagement. Dr. Parker's breakthrough went beyond simple technological innovation. She had created a system that could truly learn, that could evolve in real time. The ships were developing strategies that had never been programmed, finding solutions that no traditional military algorithm could conceive. Quantum neural synchronization at maximum efficiency, Rodriguez reported, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and strategic focus. The Necron units began to falter. For the first time in their existence, they encountered an opponent that could adapt faster than they could analyze. Weapon systems that had been devastating against hundreds of previous civilizations became almost irrelevant. The human ships didn't just defend, they learned, predicted, and neutralized. Planetary defense systems that had been converted by the swarm began to fail. Complex networks of technological control were systematically dismantled. Where previous civilizations had seen total defeat, humans saw an opportunity for systematic reclamation. By the engagement's halfway point, something extraordinary happened. The human fleet wasn't just fighting the Necron swarm. They were teaching it, introducing new patterns of technological interaction that the swarm had never encountered. Commander Chen understood the philosophical implications of what they were achieving. This wasn't conquest. This was a form of technological communication more profound than any diplomatic exchange. Star systems long considered lost began to be reclaimed. Planetary networks that had been converted were systematically freed. The Necron swarm, a force that had consumed entire civilizations, found itself confronted with an opponent that refused to be a victim. Jack Thompson's communication with the Galactic Confederation's Emergency Council was brief and pointed. Omega-9 is secure, he reported. Preliminary reclamation protocols are online. The subtext was clear. Humanity was no longer asking for a seat at the table. They were redesigning the entire room. As the last Necron units were neutralized, something became abundantly clear. This was more than a military victory. This was a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. Adaptation wasn't just a strategy. It was a way of existence. The Galactic Confederation's central chamber had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Its living crystal walls had absorbed millennia of diplomatic exchanges, of political maneuverings, of cosmic power struggles. But nothing had prepared it for this moment. Jack Thompson stood at the center of the chamber, flanked by Dr. Emily Parker and Commander Sarah Chen. Behind them, holographic displays told a story of unprecedented technological transformation. Reclaimed star systems, defeated Necron swarm territories, adaptive technologies that had rewritten the fundamental understanding of technological potential. Counselor Vrek of the Silicon Concordat struggled to maintain composure. His crystalline form flickered with agitation, mathematical patterns of light betraying his deep discomfort. The Zrill representative's energy matrix pulsed with a mixture of fear and reluctant admiration. Representatives of the Galactic Confederation, Thompson began, his voice steady and measured. We are here to discuss humanity's place in the cosmic community. The chamber fell silent. Holographic displays erupted around them, showing the comprehensive evidence of human technological achievement, the reclamation of Omega-9, the systematic neutralization of the Necron swarm, entire star systems freed from technological conversion. But more than the military achievements, the displays showed something far more profound: the adaptive potential of human technology. Dr. Emily Parker stepped forward. Her presentation was not a traditional technical report, but a philosophical deconstruction of technological evolution. Adaptation is not just a technological strategy, she explained. It is a fundamental approach to existence. Where other civilizations saw fixed solutions, humans see opportunity for continuous improvement. The displays showed the progression of human adaptive technology, from the first quantum neural interface to the living, thinking spacecraft that had transformed galactic warfare. Each image was a testament to human innovation, a species that saw limitation as its primary source of inspiration. Commander Sarah Chen presented the strategic analysis, cold, precise, devastating in its implications. The human fleet had not just defeated the Necron swarm, they had fundamentally altered the technological paradigm of galactic conflict. Adaptive systems that could learn, evolve, and respond faster than any known computational matrix. Zara Prime of the Zrill Collective could no longer contain her response. How? She transmitted, her energy form fluctuating with genuine confusion. How could a species with less than 2 centuries of spacefaring history achieve what millennium-old civilizations could not? Jack Thompson's response was simple. We don't see barriers. We see challenges. The evidence was overwhelming. Entire technological frameworks had been reimagined. Military strategies that had remained unchanged for thousands of years were now obsolete. The adaptive technologies developed by humanity represented more than a military breakthrough. They were a fundamental challenge to how intelligent species conceived of technological development. Marcus Rodriguez's research data showed something even more profound. The adaptive technologies were not just about warfare. They represented potential solutions to ecological restoration, medical challenges, computational limitations, technologies that could reshape entire planetary ecosystems, medical systems that could adapt to unknown biological challenges. The Galactic Confederation had once dismissed humanity as primitive, had tried to restrict their technological development, had attempted to limit their potential. But limitation had always been humanity's greatest source of inspiration. Counselor Vrek made a final desperate attempt to challenge the presentation. These technologies pose a potential threat to galactic stability, he argued, his crystalline form vibrating with tension. Commander Chen's response was calm and devastating. These technologies have already saved more lives than they could potentially threaten. We are not asking for permission. We are presenting a new reality. The final vote was almost anticlimactic. Humanity was not just granted full recognition. They were invited to become a core member of the Galactic Confederation's most advanced research and development councils. As the hearing concluded, Jack Thompson looked at his colleagues, Dr. Emily Parker, Commander Sarah Chen, Marcus Rodriguez. They had done more than prove humanity's worth. They had fundamentally transformed humanity's place in the universe. The universe was about to change, and humanity was leading the way.